Hi, welcome back to Sage Thyme. This is a safe space, a space where love and growth, honoring and deeper listening open our souls more wholly and fully. This is our Sage Thyme. And I'm Lillian. Welcome back. It's been a while. Things have been changing, shifting, releasing, replacing, all the things. It's interesting, something that is going to, I believe, be a primary topic, or at least lead in to today's message, is something that has come up, quite a few times in the last 24 hours, I would say. And it's come up in different contexts, but it's all come up under the same idea of, I don't know if you've heard of the Theseus ship paradox. And basically the concept with the Theseus ship, Theseus was a Greek god. I don't remember much about him. Most likely it's probably very akin to the ship paradox. But it's the idea that if you have a ship and over time, each board is replaced, each nail is replaced, every part that makes up the ship is replaced with something new. So that at some point, maybe 10 years, 100 years, 500 years down the road, whatever, at some point, the ship is, by all intents and purposes, in a literal sense, not the same ship. But here's the paradox, and yet it is. Everything was replaced in external observation exactly as it was. So it looks identical to what it was when it was first created, when it was first born, right? And I was reminded, I was looking at this fossil. I'll show you if I can, yeah. And how perfect, right? It's the, I don't remember the name of the shell, but it's a spiral shell, fossilized, and over time, each and every molecule, each and every atom of the shell and the contents of the shell, but the shell specifically, each atom is replaced by sediment that it was encased and preserved in, eventually hardening and becoming what we know as fossils. And you can see bits of granite type of crystallized stone in there, but the appearance of it, why not exactly the same as the concept of the Theseus stone, but by all intents and purposes, we know that this is a shell. We know what type of shell it is, and yet it's entirely different. And our bodies do that. That came up today too. Our bodies, cells replace themselves. Different organs take different amounts of time. I can't remember now off the top of my head. I think the liver takes just a few days, under a year. The heart takes several years. I should look that up. That would be an interesting thing to see as far as numbers go. 1 second. So the idea being, in reference to our own selves, applying this as metaphorically. It's been a while. I've got wild woman hair, which is funny. The wild woman card came out today. If we apply this to our own selves physically, yes, it's not so complicated to imagine that each and every piece of us at a cellular level, and in truth even at the genetic level, because DNA is constantly in a expansion and release and alters with its environment within the cell, contraction back into the double helix. So the double helix unravels and then is influenced by his environment and comes back into the double helix. And this goes on and on and on within each and every individual cell constantly. And things that are more subtle in our environment, our emotions, our thoughts, sounds, as well as the bigger stuff, environmental, what we're eating and observing and who we're surrounding ourselves by, all these things, but really, especially at the subtle level, waves and sound waves, particle influences, these will alter the transcriptase process when the DNA double helix unfurls and is in that exposed, more vulnerable, and also more open and able to receive place. So when it comes back together, it reinstates itself in accordance to its environment in the moment that it received and absorbed. And how wonderfully we can apply that to ourselves emotionally and psychologically as well. And yet that's also affecting each and every cell in our body. So it begs to question a couple of things. One, I'm thinking of a friend of mine brought up a subject about mortality and immortality. And I think I'm just going to leave that for now because that's just such a bigger conversation and my brain's not there. But let's get back to the Theseus ship paradox. If every, let's say 7 years, each and every aspect and cell and organelle inside our cells and DNA have changed entirely, every bit and nuance of our personal ship has been replaced with something new, are we the same person? How could we be? Everything's always changing. That's the nature of nature, right? So then what do we do with that? Perhaps it's something about reflection and awareness within that, and the reflection that recognizes we get to play with that and observe it and open up to the observation of that. Become aware of what that means for us on a sensorial level within our internal universe and on a internal sense of regard and communication with our inner selves, listening to our inner selves for those changes that each part of us within is changing. And we can be anatomically and scientifically specific, but we don't have to be. It can simply be something simply, right? I say that word. It almost always never means simple, but we can simply bring our attention within, and the more that becomes a practice, you've heard me discuss this many times on this channel, the more we develop our ability to not only recognize different signatures within ourselves, fine-tune to sensations, whether it's grief or anger or joy or any of those, but also sensations and feelings and colors, shapes, however it presents itself to you. we're able to tune into that in a way that is a higher level of communication and presence and awareness. And by doing that, well, we're able to learn from our inner selves, our inner universe, who we're becoming more. And that can then be applied to the mind, instead of the mind looking outside into external circumstances and determining that who we are as individuals based on what's going on outside this. You know, we hear people talk about it all the time, but there isn't really a reference to hold on to with that. But when we look at it in the context of the Theseus ship paradox, that we are in every sense, down to the particles, in subparticles. You've heard me talk about electrons. I love electrons and their quantum state. But in a more observable, our DNA, our cells, our organs, our fascia, our physiology, our endocrine system, our neural pathways, our transmitters, our neurotransmitters, and the makeup of everything. It's always shifting and changing. But if we're allowing the external world to tell us that we're the same, or to tell us by inference, not necessarily directly, that who we are on every level is the same as who we were yesterday and the same as who we were 7 years ago, that builds on itself and it becomes false. Oh, look at that. And the smoky mirror came up. I drew 2 cards and then stopped drawing. I was guided to wait from the mystical shaman oracle. And so we become an illusion unto ourselves. We see ourselves through the filter, the smoky mirror of other people from that external environment. And not only other people, but just our circumstances, be it a job, our status within a family or a community where we live. And yet those things may or may not be changing. That's another conversation. But who we are inside is changing in every way. And maybe just like on the Theseus ship, you know, oak was used originally, but then centuries later, after it's been replaced by different woods and things like that, there's an entirely new 3D printer version of a wood-looking plank. I don't know, I'm just out there, but you get what I'm saying. And it's made of entirely different things. And that's the opportunity that I think we miss out on within ourselves when we don't go deeper within and we don't spend that really highly invested amount of time, energy, and quiet stillness focus within. Because it's one of the greatest explorations there are, is the internal environment. And it doesn't seem like much at first. It doesn't really seem like much at second either. But when you move on with time, and there is the repetition of that inquiry of what does it mean for me to go within? What is there for me to see and feel and look at, and then allow it to present itself? That's where our communication refines to a level that, I mean, I don't have words for it, you guys. And I feel like if you're watching this video still, right, the cliche phrase, right, if you're still here, you probably get it. But yeah, you do on some level, right? So let's see what we got for our animal oracle. My friends, we got the humpback whale, the singer. Talk about going deep. Let's see what this has to say. Sing healing songs for the world. Your inner navigation always guides you. Nothing can stop you or keep you from your goal. Align with your purpose and the power in your soul. align with your purpose and the power within your soul. And who we are as physical beings is a saturation of our soul. But it gets quieted all over the place within us when we're not present to it, when we're not paying more attention to the internal world than we are the external world. And to many in the old paradigm, that seems irresponsible, perhaps, and definitely out of touch, not practical, right? But for those of you who have started the practice or in the practice or even recognize and can feel the truth of this, you know that the adage of as within, so without is more than an adage. You can feel that in the depths of your bones, in the depths of the cells of your marrow, and deeper still. And we can sing to those. We can sing to each and every cell. We can intentionally just call forth one cell within our body. Say you want to work on your sacral, and you just one cell within one kidney, and you say to it, hi, with your eyes closed, or however it works best for you to go within and create a sense of presence within. Even if you don't have the ability developed yet, or maybe for certain synesthesias, visualization is a lot more challenging. Simply having the intention and feeling the self allow itself to like microcosmic itself into one cell within the kidney and be in that tiny little bubble like a spaceship. And with all the joy and wonder and innocence in your heart, say to the surrounding organelles, DNA, and the cell membrane, say, hi, I'm here. I'm here and I'm listening. That was an interesting siren. And then listen and allow whatever comes forward to come forward or not, and try it again and again. And that's what the humpback whale does. He goes deep into the waters. And when they rest, they hang upside down vertically often. And I love that. I see it as a vertical pillar in a way, with their heads pointed to the center of the earth and their tails to the sky and the cosmos. They become a channel, perhaps from the center of the earth to the stars. I take another sip. An upside down channel. I mean, they are very wise after all. Gosh, they are. And they sing. I mean, we know they sing. And here this card speaks about singing to the world. What I invite you to do is to sing to yourself. You can sing out loud. You can sing in your imagination. You can hum. You can do it however you wish, knowing that resonance, electromagnetic resonance that comes off of us from our intention, from the heart's intent of loving presence and innocent wonderment. That is a resonance, that is a song, and it may come out vocally and verbally, and it may not. And sometimes when it doesn't, it's even more powerful, because when we're allowed to be so still and so quieted and so deeply within ourselves, we can see and feel and hear it in that clairsentient, claircognizant, really clairsentient way, and observing it, moving through our bodies and feeling how that vibration, that resonance interfaces with different regions of our body. Maybe something feels tense or empty or stuck or whatever. I don't want to put all the words. Maybe it feels yellow. Or maybe it feels like a tangled ball of yarn, or maybe it feels like a kitten. Maybe it feels like an eagle soaring. Either way, maybe it feels like a geometrical shape that shifts and changes. You get to be present with it from that heart's intent of wonderment and sing to it. The second card that came out next to Smoky Mirror is Wild Woman. And now as I'm speaking, I'm hearing let it be wild. Rewild yourself. And because the card says Wild Woman, there's a part of me that wants to say, allow it to be that inner feminine, the receptivity. I'm not sure. Something's calling me to say, let the wild masculine. But then it brings it right back to the feminine. Let's look up this card and see. I won't read the whole thing, but let's see what stands out. Here we go. So, reminding us of the essence of authenticity and freedom. So that's it, okay? That's it. Going deeply within, being the Indiana Jones of your internal universe. Be, instead of a cosmonaut, be a microscopic adventurer and archaeologist. Yes, dig deep, go deeper, and have fun with it. Yes, there's stillness in it, and there's stillness in it to allow a greater opening, and that's that feminine. The stillness is allowing the opening to be greater so that the perceptivity can become stronger and attune and refine and become what's right for you. What else was there? It talks about holding up a mirror to your essential self. And I think that that's a better example. Here in the description, it talks about mirrors externally. And I don't always even often agree with that. It is true, and it's also simultaneously not true. But what really can speak to us is the mirrors that the reflections that we create within ourselves. And understanding without needing to define, understanding by heartfelt relatedness, what's going on within. If you've got a pain in your hip or a constant neck tension maybe, or a itchy shoulder or something, or skin stuff, or whatever it is, go within that space and simply inquire. And let it be fun. Let it be wild in the sense of not, I mean, it can be if you want, like, dancing around a sacred fire in the middle of the night under the moon, while, naked and screaming and how it can be that kind of adventure inside. But it can also be gentle and tender. It can also be fervent. It can also be scary. It can also be sad and grief-stricken. It can be all the things that is in nature because you are natural. And that's the wildness coming back to you. That's bringing yourself back to the wild, is allowing everything to be what it is and simply be with that. And listen. Be present and watch it unfurl and watch it, just like we see now in autumn, the petals of a rose or a flower. They're unfurling and dying and wilting and crumbling and getting all brown and gross and ooky, right? We say gross in contrast to the beautiful blooming rose. But here's the thing. The rose, yes, it offers a visual and aesthetic pleasure, and both visually and olfactory. And that does a host of wonderful things. But where the real medicine is, really, if you think about it, is after all the rose petals fall and it gets that less pleasing aesthetic look to it. And then the bud of it, or the bulb that remains, billows out. You'll see that, the rose bud. And that has the highest content of vitamin C and other incredible antibodies, not antibodies. It's incredibly great for what season? The winter. It boosts the immune system, and it helps the entire system have a sense of vitality and energy and protection that it needs during a time where those things naturally within the individual aren't as self-generating naturally. So it offers that extra boost. That's beautiful. And that's the kind of thing that I want you to go within and look within and find within yourself. Find the parts that maybe before you would have felt an aversion to, or thought there was something wrong. Oh, there's a pain here, or a tension, or not a lot of vitality. And instead of making it wrong and trying to change it, again, be with it. Ask it what it needs. Maybe it needs to replace itself in a way that has never been thought of and imagined. Maybe the energy center of the solar plexus doesn't want to become yellow. I don't know. Maybe it wants to really become something entirely different that is beyond the imagination. And for it to become that, it has to experience both its polarity of not being what it always was known as, the yellow and the pattern and the shape and everything. And maybe it needs to become something opposite of that, or null. Because once there's a loss, there's an opportunity for reconciliation between the two polarities of what the ideal was, then what it became that was the opposite of the ideal. And those two things can come together. And when they come together and they reconcile in a way that is accepting, lovingly accepting, for both playing a role in being exactly what they needed to be to offer contrast and observation and nuance of experience, and there's that softening that occurs in all the areas, because there's an allowance and an integration. And when that happens, that's when the transcendence occurs. A transcendence that unfurls, and a transcendence that is like a seed in the center of it. And then it unfurls, and it becomes something that's so far beyond the imagination. Though the imagination and our heart's intents, our intentions, definitely contribute to what it blossoms and blooms into. But that's what happens. And that can be an actual somatic, energetic, sentient experience. And I want to invite all of you to explore that, to be your Indiana Jones. Put on your fedora, get out your whip, or whatever, whatever works. Be that. Go in a bubble spaceship that's, microcosmic. There's a big, beautiful eagle soaring right up above. And go within. Hum and sing to all the inner structures and the microstructures and the energetic fields. Love them and be with them and accept them for who they are. And then allow the change to occur without direction, simply the intention of wholeness and love, truth, all those kinds of baseline cornerstones. Peace is a wonderful one to work with. Clarity, authenticity. That's the wild woman, wild man. Freedom and authenticity. But it comes not because we force it, it comes because we allow it. We allow all the pieces to be present, and we allow them to find their way to come together. And then we allow them to take shape in an entirely unexpected way. And that is the joy and the rejoicing of wonderment, of innocence, and of you. So with that, I am going to leave it here and say thank you. I look forward to our next. Blessings.